Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into this episode of On the Beat. Excited to bring On the Beat back as training camp has started. We're barreling down the road of the 2025 NFL football season, the Buffalo Bills season, but On the Beat exclusively here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, powered by Believe, a show where we, as I said, bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every single week. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter, Joe Miller Wired. Please do me a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this production on, whether it's live right now or in post. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate everybody that's joining us in the comments right now. Excited today to have a Buffalo Bills beat reporter from Bills Digest and newly acquired Sports Illustrated, Alex Brasky. Alex, anything exciting going on in your life recently?
Yeah, the Twitter sphere always keeps things interesting, and I've kind of been fueling that intrigue over the past couple of days. But no, it's always fun to get out to Bills training camp. I mean, there's so much news and notes to report. Unfortunately, injuries have been a big story of things in the early going, but there's also been positive developments as well. Trey White looking good, Matt Milano looking good, two players going into the season. You didn't know what you were going to get, so some positive, some negative, but all around a great time to be out there in the sunshine amongst my people, and that is Bills Mafia. Yeah,
your old partner AJ tweeted today a ridiculous list of injuries, and we're not gonna talk about all of these, but running back Ty Johnson, Max Hairston, Alec Anderson, Spencer Brown, Tyrell Shavers, Curtis Samuel, Caden Prather, Terrell Bernard, Dawson Knox, Dorian Williams, KJ Hamler. I'm out of breath. Dwayne Carter, Mike Edwards, Cole Bishop, who has returned. Dalton Kincaid has returned today. Elijah Moore sort of returned. I think he was still on the sideline today. But the interesting thing about Elijah Moore is it was reported that he does have a leg injury. It wasn't like leg soreness, which I think is what we were told originally. But of this list, I think Max Hairston is the biggest scare at this point. Yes?
Yeah, for sure. He sustained a non-contact injury during a pass rush drill during individual work on day 6 of Bills training camp. And Dane Jackson was asked about it after practice. He termed it as a freak trip up. And if you watch the reaction on John Scott WGRZ's Twitter account, he got a shot of Hairston's reaction to the injury. He starts with a towel over his face. Nate Brasky, the head athletic trainer, doing what I believe is termed the Lockman test. Greg Tomset gave me that little bit of information. That tests the ACL. So it certainly seems to be a knee injury for Max Hairston. And whenever you hear non-contact, that rings alarm bells. And just witnessing his reaction through that video posted by John, he did seem to be upset. Christian Benford and Trey White came over to him and embraced him for a while, gave him some words of encouragement. And I believe the team, I read on Twitter, I can't remember who posted this, so sorry that I'm not sourcing this. I believe the team had somewhat of a team prayer for him after practice as he did not return. So very, very concerning with Maxwell Hairston. You mentioned Elijah Moore. He and Curtis Samuel are set to be back soon per Brandon Bean on Sirius XM this afternoon. Yep. So it doesn't seem to be overtly concerning there. But then you look at the linebacker position. They were both working with athletic trainers, Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams, but that group is depleted. And then Dawson Knox was removed from the NFI list on Sunday, and he still has yet to put on the pads. I think you mentioned one more that was at practice. Yeah, it was Knox. He was at practice, but not in pads. And then you had Tyler Bass, the kicker, still out with pelvic soreness. So there is some concern there. There's some not as concerning matters. And then there's Cole Bishop, who we're not sure what to think right now.
Yeah, it's clearly doing this show or doing all these shows with two former Bills players. You know, they're very convinced that a lot of times these guys are held out just precautionary. There's no reason, especially if a guy's a 5, 6, 7-year vet. We saw Deion Dawkins last year, who missed most, I think, of the preseason and then was injected game 1 and didn't, and had a Pro Bowl year as far as that goes. But there's some on here as well that are, obviously concerning. Alec Anderson, I didn't know was injured. I thought they pulled him because of his, well, we can call it a cheap shot because coach did. So because of his cheap shot that he took on, what was it, Friday? So is he injured as well?
He was removed for the cheap shot, and then yesterday he left practice and he did not return. It's a knee injury for Alec Anderson. He did not practice today. He was on the sideline, however, in uniform, but no pads or anything, obviously not participating. So that doesn't appear to be significant. But then again, really left in the dark on a few of these.
So it's never a great way to start training camp. You don't want to have conversations where we're leading with injuries, which is effectively what we're doing. And it is the story. The good news inside of this is Tre'Davious White is on this football team. If there's something seriously wrong with M.A.S.H Hairston, if it's more than just a brush up or a contusion or something like that. Can you talk real quick just to what you've seen out of Trey White? All the reports that we're getting is just glowing that he's been on fire. Can you speak to just what you've seen out of Trey White?
Confidence. I've seen that confidence return for Trey White, and we all know how confident of a player, a personality he was before those two devastating injuries. And he said it when he spoke to the media the other day. Those are the two worst injuries that a player at his position can sustain: an ACL and Achilles. That can rip you of your burst, your athleticism, and your ability at the position. And it did rip and rob him of that over the past couple of years. But after a full season last year, a full off season this off season, and the start to training camp that he's had, he's showing great signs and giving confidence to fans that he can lock down this cornerback 2 position. And you hope the best for Maxwell Harrison. I'm not downplaying the injury, but it does give you solace that Tre'Davious White has been performing so well throughout training camp. His burst has been sapped a little bit. His athleticism isn't quite what it used to be. That's going to be the case. The 30-year-old player, he's going to be beaten at times, but he's still a technician. He's still a film junkie. He's someone who allows that off the field work to really spread over onto the field. So he's been showing great signs today. 2 pass breakups, one of which an interception working against Joshua Palmer. That interception coming during one-on-ones, a physical rep, jockeying for position with Palmer along the back line and then breaking away, making the pick. So a lot has been there for Tre'Davious White. He doesn't have the full toolbox anymore, but I'm confident in what we're going to get from him come week 1.
Yeah, before free agency opened, I had mentioned we were going through on the show, as all networks do and all content creators do, going through just guys that are out there that could potentially, the Bills could potentially go after. And I said to John and Jerry, I was like, let's not, forget about Trey White. Trey, with the first draft pick by Sean McDermott, had a lot of success here. I'm not necessarily sure they moved on from Trey White because they wanted to. I mean, it's a business after all. He was injured with those 2, as you said, devastating injuries. And there was a measure from my colleagues that was like, that's not happening. And then sure enough, the Bills bring him back. And it looks like it might, if Max Hairston, if the reaction from his teammates lead us down a road, and the video that we saw of Dr. Nate performing, obviously the checks that he did, if it turns out to be the worst case scenario, I mean, this is not a golden ticket, but this is a wow, thank God kind of moment, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a good, and I wouldn't even say fallback plan, because I said from the outset of the offseason that I think the plan was always for Tre'Davious White to win the cornerback 2 job, at least out of training camp, and then you see where the season takes you. So I don't want to call it a fallback plan, but for the lack of a better phrase, he's a great fallback plan to have if your first-round rookie isn't ready to take the reins or sustains an injury like it appears he did today.
Yeah, moving on from that situation, one last question on the injuries. Outside of Max Hairston, who's got us all kind of all choked up a little bit, who on this list concerns you the most that you see as far as kind of going into this training camp, this preseason schedule and then into the season? Who are you most concerned about?
I don't want to say I'm overly concerned at this point, but there is some dubiousness, if that's even a word, surrounding Tyler Bass's pelvic injury. I am pretty close with Dr. Kyle Trimble. He runs the site Banged Up Bills, and he's really said that this is kind of an odd injury, for especially, I think, for a kicker to sustain. He's not undergoing any sort of contact, so it's obviously something he strained throughout the course of football work, because if it came off the field, it would be a non-football injury. He did miss 4 of his 8 kicks on Sunday or Friday, one of the two. And then I can't remember how many days he's missed, whether it was just he missed Monday and today. I think that was the case. But regardless, he missed the 4 kicks out of 8, some coming from 50. It was also pouring rain. So whatever day that was, I think that that may have been Sunday. But it certainly seems to be maybe not overtly concerning. I used that term earlier, but definitely something that you want to keep an eye on, because this is a player that's been hot and cold in the past, and he seemed to solve everything and exercise his demons last year with some big kicks. But if he's to remain out, maybe the Bills are forced to sign a kicker here in the near term just to get them through the preseason.
Yeah, do you feel like that injury possibly happened because he was kicking, I believe, during the rain, during the downpour? Was it a footing issue? Did you see a tweak? You know, like a lot of times you'll see a player do something and tweak where you probably weren't even necessarily paying attention. Any idea of when or where it happened?
I didn't see, but I can tell you from my very limited athletic ability and experience that if you try to plant on a wet surface and it kind of gives out on you and you slip, your other muscles try to compensate for the lack of steady footing, if I'm explaining it correctly. And I think maybe that's where something could come from. But if I'm correct, it's a pelvic bone. I'm not a doctor, but the pelvis is a bone, or at least there is a pelvic bone.
Yes.
But they did say pelvic area soreness, so it could be a muscle in there as well. Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but just trying to read the tea leaves the best I can. That's what it appears to be to me. Maybe something he strained, like you mentioned, during the rain. I want to say it was on Sunday.
Well, there's nothing about what you're describing or what we're hearing about that sounds like it would be fun for Tyler Bass. So we'll just leave it at that. Transitioning
some funny comments that I received on X speculating what the injury could be. I'm sure that you can imagine what some of those jokes pointed toward, talking about the pelvic area. But all positive hopes for Tyler Bass. They really need him to be healthy.
Talking with Alex Brasky here on from Bills Digest and Sports Illustrated on the Beat program here on Overreaction Sports.
Also, the Buffalo pregame podcast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
No worries. I got a lot of things to plug, so just want.
You've got a lot of stuff going on now, which is good. Transitioning for the last couple minutes, we're going to be talking today into the wide receivers now. The last year, I think the Bills went into the season with 5, right? They had 5 rostered wide receivers. There's not a slew of guys on this list that they've got rostered right now that are healthy, even the ones that aren't healthy, that are necessarily like big special teams aces, if you will. Khalil Shakir's making this roster. Keon Coleman's making this roster. Josh Palmer's making this roster. Elijah Moore's making this roster. You assume Curtis Samuel is making this roster. Before we get into a couple minutes of breaking down what you've seen from like other players, do you feel that it's a 5-man race here? Is it 6? Do you think there's a slight shot for 7 going into the season?
I'd give a shot for 6 based on the special teams needs that they're going to have entering the preseason and regular season. And on my 53-man roster projection that was in Bills Digest in its entirety, I projected Jalen Virgil making the 53-man roster. I loved what I saw from him during the offseason program. He hasn't been as active during this training camp, but he's caught a couple balls, and he's somebody who has that special teams ability as a gunner, somebody who I think can run down the field and make some tackles. So I picked Jalen Virgil, but at the same time, with all the injuries, it's really clouded things. Now you bring in Deion Kane. He catches a bomb from Mitch Trubisky today, so maybe throwing his hat into the ring. And then you got the undrafted rookie Steven Gosnell, who also caught a bomb from Josh Allen, who also caught a bomb. His came from Josh Allen today. So I think if these injuries persist, or if there is any concern with any of them going into that first preseason game, maybe you see some of these guys at the bottom of the roster get some extra opportunity and work their way into the conversation to be kept on the back end. But I think you nailed it with the 5. I don't see any way that they part ways with any of those guys unless the injuries are to continue. Now, there has been, not to keep going too long, but Curtis Samuel, there's been chatter. Fans want him to be traded. It would save them, I want to say, $9 million, something like. What team right now is dying for Curtis Samuel? I'm not sure anybody wants to trade for Curtis Samuel at this point. So I think you can put the candle out on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for, the old adage, the best ability is availability. And Curtis Samuel is, he's one of those guys that's injured a lot and has been kind of throughout his career, a lot of soft tissue injuries. Obviously struggled a little bit last year, starts the season this year, a little bit injured, a little bit tweaked. I don't even know where to park Curtis Samuel as far as that goes. I mean, are we going to go into the season with a guy that we're nursing along? So it's not 5, it's 4 wide receivers, right? Elijah Moore. What have you seen? So Khalil Shakir is obviously the steady. He's the constant on this wide receiver core. I don't know that we necessarily need to talk about Khalil. This is his room, I would say, at this point. What have you seen from Keon Coleman? We've heard a lot of ups and downs. I've not been to camp. For those that are obviously listening to us right now that haven't made it out to camp, what have you seen from Keon this year so far?
Quick note on Khalil Shakir. One thing it seems they're trying to add to his game is that down the field game. He's obviously that slot type receiver, somebody catching the ball close to the line of scrimmage. It seems like they're trying to enhance his game a little bit and make him a little bit more dynamic with that down the field. He caught a deep corner route working, I believe, against Jamarcus Ingram the other day for a touchdown from Josh Allen. He hasn't been too busy throughout camp, but that was a good moment, and it just is an example of how they've tried to increase and implement him in a different way, deeper down the field. But Keon Coleman, in my opinion, I don't even know if he's been the most heavily utilized wide receiver throughout team drills during the first 6 days at training camp. And Josh Allen making it a point to go to him time and again and let him work out the kinks. Let Josh Allen and Keon Coleman work out the kinks together with their connection, and also test some things that I think Keon has been working on throughout the offseason, some added route combinations, some or added route running ability, I should say, and just some of his separation skills that he's looking to add to his skill set. And I think that's what I've been most impressed with. He's been open, wide open at times over the middle of the field, and the only way that you're able to do that is a drastic miscommunication by the defense, and I really haven't seen many of those in these circumstances, or when you're able to separate from your defender at the top of the route. And that's what I've seen from Keon Coleman. He's always going to have that above the rim ability, and he's also exhibited that. He had 2 touchdowns the other day during one-on-ones. One was one-on-ones, one was team drills. The one-on-one came against Jamarcus Ingram, left front pylon, went up, took it out of the air, and then on the right side, I think they posted both of these on the Bills Twitter page. The other one came against Dorian Strong on the right pylon. So
right,
he's doing that downfield above the rim, and he's also catching it over the middle, gaining some separation. So heavily utilized, showing consistency as well. Today was his most consistent day. So a lot to be encouraged with Keon Coleman.
Yeah, 2 enigmas coming into this season for Bills Mafia, Joshua Palmer and Elijah Moore. And I feel like we've got more excitement and anticipation for what Elijah Moore's skill set's going to bring, and as opposed to Joshua Palmer. There are those out there that are big Joshua Palmer expectors, I would say, meaning that they're expecting a lot out of him. What have you seen out of Joshua Palmer? Because I don't know that I haven't seen a whole lot on Twitter coming out of camp just about Joshua Palmer.
I think yesterday was his first big day. He and Josh Allen had been just a tick off, I think, throughout the first several days of camp. They've been trying to connect down the seam and in the intermediate area after day one was heavily in the red zone during team drills. But they were a tick off for the first several days until the other day they connected a few times in that intermediate area. And I think it's going to take a little while for Joshua Palmer. He's a player I mentioned with Keon Coleman, those separation skills, that supreme route running ability, and he's really a technician in that regard. And I think it takes a while to develop that rapport between quarterback and wide receiver, especially a player with his skill set. And Josh Allen has also exhibited, I don't know if difficulty is the right word, but there haven't been a whole lot of receivers that have come in here in the first year and really hit the ground running. I always fall back on Deontay Hardy and Trent Sherfield and how they kind of struggle to get involved right away. But you look at these new players with Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer. I think Elijah Moore's skill set is more conducive to that chemistry developing rapidly, because he's a lot more close to the line of scrimmage and really that timing route and using his speed and quickness to get open in a phone booth in that short area. Whereas Joshua Palmer is a little bit more let it develop down the field and then find him at the right time. So I think once that timing's worked out, the chemistry starts to come, you'll hear much, much more from Joshua Palmer and Josh Allen. Josh to Josh.
Josh to Josh, indeed. Elijah Moore, you touched on him a little bit. Is he as advertised, the quickness? Do you see that? There's been a couple of videos I've seen where I've noticed how deep he's able to sink his hips, which is a big part of that shiftiness that he has. Has it been noticeable to you, his quickness, his shiftiness, his ability to get open and get separation?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Like I mentioned, that ability to get open in a phone booth. I think that's the best way I can describe it. He can be in such a small area with a defender on him, and just one quick move, and he's 2-3 yards away from that defender. Now, he's not the most well-sized receiver, so I think his skill set is somewhat limited. I don't know if you're going to see them tossing up bombs to Elijah Moore, but if he can give you 25, 30, 35 receptions in that short area and in key spots when Josh Allen is looking for an outlet on third down, I think that's a great role for him to have. And he has been as advertised, in my opinion. That twitch, that quickness, it's all there. It was a shame to see him have that leg issue that brought him out the past 2 days, and really, I don't want to say killed momentum, but put some cold water on the momentum that he was building with Allen in the passing game.
Yeah, it gives some time for some other dudes. And speaking of the other dudes, guys I'm interested in, I have interested in knowing, there's always the Laviska Shenault conversation, right? Because of the name, and he never really amounted to anything in his career necessarily. I'm very interested in Caden Prather, who's got injured. Was he a hamstring as well?
Hamstring,
KJ Hamler was the one. Or no, Tyrell Shavers was the one with the ankle.
It's so hard to keep them all in order. I mean, there's a million of them. There's like 5 that were out today.
And you're leading me to where I want to go, which is, of the rest of the group, who has flashed the most in your eyes? I know you said Jalen Virgil was one of those guys, but you said it was kind of because of special teams. Who of the group seems to have whatever that it factor is to make a difference, or maybe fills a role that none of the top 5 guys have? Who of the other guys, if you want to just go through them real quick, have really caught your eye?
I don't know if it'll amount to anything, but KJ Hamler has been a steady producer with the second and third team, despite his injury that kept him out today. He had that catch along the right boundary, and Matt Milano came up and stuck him yesterday, but he's been a benefactor of some of these injuries. He stepped in with the first team a little bit because he's had that chemistry with Josh Allen, over these past 2 years. So I don't know if it's anything that's really jumped off the page outside of one rep where Mike White, I think it may have been on day one during red zone work, I think it was, fired a ball up high into the back of the right end zone near the pylon, only where Hamler, who is not a man of great stature, he's diminutive in size, but he put it up top, and Hamler extended and kept his toes in, and it was really the play of the day from the passing game, and really what impressed me about Mike White and got the ball rolling with my Mike White for QB2 campaign. But KJ Hamler, I think, is someone who's been productive and somebody who also has return ability, so maybe you keep him in the conversation.
Right. Anything from Caden Prather? Seen anything?
I haven't seen anything, but good size on him. He's got really good size, something that the Bills don't have a lot of. So I think if he develops, he could be something. But this injury is obviously tough early in his career, but it will be good for the Bills in terms of getting him back on the practice squad.
Indeed. Before I ask you our last set of questions here, or the last question that I have for you, why don't you tell everybody, Alex, where they can find your content, find you, because there's been some change for you professionally as far as like where your stuff is. So yeah, go ahead and fill everybody in on where they can get your stuff. Yeah,
I'm now working somewhat independently, but glad to also be along for the ride with 3 great publications. Buffalo Pregame, the podcast, and the Substack. Those are really my immediate takeaways from training camp and other stuff throughout the season, pregame, postgame shows, stuff like that. And then, like I said, very grateful to be a part of Bills Digest these past few years, the official publication of the Buffalo Bills. And also Sports Illustrated, I linked on with them recently. Chris Perrone welcomed me in. Ralph Ventry has been a great resource since I started there. And
Awesome.
then SB Nation, Matt Warren, who runs Buffalo Rumblings, and I'm sure that you're familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
He helped bring me into SB Nation, was very gracious to allow me to start running some more national type stuff. So I had a recent story come out about Tyreek Hill, another one coming out about the Steelers soon. So really those 4 places are where you can find my work. And shout out to Brian Spindler and Dave Altman and Brian Jones, guys at Bills Digest.
Very good. Yeah, you can't say Matt Warren without saying Matt Rich Warren. It seems like Matt Rich Warren is his Twitter handle is kind of what comes out.
I know him as Matt, not Mark. It's gonna be an inside joke. His twin brother Mark has been called Matt his entire life, but I like to turn the tables and say it's Matt, not Mark.
Awesome. Well, I would be remiss if we did not at least take a moment to ask you about Matt Milano. He has flashed and seems to be 5 years, 6 years younger than he is right now, the way that he's been playing. Talk real quick just about what you've seen from Matt Milano from his game, and is this hopefully something that is sustainable for him throughout this season?
It appears to be. If he can stay healthy, I'm so excited to see what Matt Milano has to offer. I mentioned the confidence with Trey White and just that swagger. Matt Milano is a walking swag machine. And if he's got it going, he not only makes this defense, he makes this whole team better. The team rallies around this guy. He's really a locker room favorite, somebody who doesn't talk a lot, but talks with his play. And he's been doing that the past 2 days. I mentioned the big hit on KJ Hamler. He had an interception of Josh Allen today, a great read, backtracking, taking it away from Dalton Kincaid down the sideline when Allen thought he had Kincaid wide open. So he's showing that burst. He's showing that play recognition and those instincts that he's always been known for. And if he can couple that with the athleticism that he's always been known for, it's not the same at the cornerback position. You don't need as much burst and fast twitch. You need that at the linebacker position, but you also need that ability to come up and pop. And he showed that with KJ Hamler. Very excited about Matt Milano. And I think he can be such a key cog within this defense, especially considering the linebacker injuries they're going through early in camp.
Yeah, excellent. Alex, it's always great to have you in the program. Appreciate the time. For giving it to us. We'll get you back on in a couple of weeks or so. Is that good?
Yeah, excited. Anytime, any day or night. Tell Jerry and John I said what's up. My 2 favorite Bills alumni.
Yeah, we'll get them on with you next time that we're on together. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into the On the Beat program here on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe. For me, for John, for Jerry, for all of us here at Overreaction, go Bills. Go Bills.